23 minutes before 10 o'clock. Have you ever known anybody who needed to lose any weight, Robin?
Me.
And me.
Me.
And have you ever tried to tell that person what they should do?
I have tried telling myself what I should do, and it does not work.
and well, you're like 2 steps ahead of me. So what I was going to say, had you played along, I would have said, do you know somebody needs to lose weight? Well, if you do, have you ever told them what they should do? And they're smart. You have smart friends, so they would say, well, I know I need to do that. And then you might say in a chastising way, well, why? Why don't you do something about it? Well, that is me. I'm talking to myself, and I don't know. Peter Case seems to perhaps have an answer. He's on the phone right now. He has done it himself, it looks like, and he is an international health coach, a nutrition and physical therapist. And he goes all over the place speaking to people, and I believe he's written a book about it too. He'll have to fill in that blank for me. I'm not really sure. Peter K., how to tone up and burn up calories with total body workouts while staying nutritionally fit. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Thank you.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm currently in L.A., but I'm based in New York.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Robin printed up something from your website, peterkfitness.com.
Yes.
There's a before and after picture. Is that you?
That is me, and it's not photoshopped.
Oh, wow.
That is definitely me.
How much did you lose, and how long ago? And I guess
it was about 22 years ago, and I lost about 65 pounds. And that picture, the before picture, was taken. I used to play college football for Rutgers University. I had a full scholarship, and we were in Ireland. It was the last game we were playing in Ireland against the University of Pittsburgh, and I looked in the mirror and was just frustrated, disgusted, depressed, really. And that's 22 years ago when I decided to make a change. And then I created a business around it because I thought if I could do it, maybe I could help some other people do it. And ever since, I've been doing that.
Now, a lot of times when we get to that point, you look in the mirror, you're disgusted, you say, okay, I'm going to lose weight, and you go crazy. I mean, you do something really extreme.
Right.
You eat, 10 calories a day or something. That's probably real extreme. But you know what I mean? I mean, people will go to, super extremes. Like, I'll have soup for lunch.
Yep.
And I'll have an egg for dinner. And literally, get themselves sick just trying too hard. What did you do, and how come it worked?
Yeah, you're right about that. I hit rock bottom, and that's what it takes for a lot of people. They hit rock bottom, not another day of this, I'm tired, I've done a million diets, but I just can't stand myself anymore. But I did it wisely, I guess, looking back. I bought a stepping machine, from an infomercial, put it in my bedroom. At the time, they were saying work out an hour a day, sweat the calories away. So I tried to do that, and even though I was an athlete, I could barely make 5 minutes on that stepper. It killed me. So I modified my goal. I said, okay, I'll do 5 minutes a day, and I'll see what happens. So I started with that 5 minutes. That's why I created 5 Minutes to Fitness. And then I really wanted to do it right. A couple of guys on the team, on my football team, who had lost a tremendous amount of weight, and I asked them how they did it, and they really did it with moderation. So I wanted to do it right. So I went and got a nutrition degree, and then I went on and got my Master's of Science in Physical Therapy. So I learned how to eat. I learned how to exercise. And then the most important thing I did is I set a goal. And it wasn't a weight goal. It was more of a personal goal. I had a vision of how I wanted to look, in a pair of jeans and a T-shirt, have confidence walking down a hallway or a mall or wherever I was. So I created this vision in my head, and that is what drove me. It wasn't, eating less, exercising more, all the things that some people do to try to motivate themselves. Those things are not motivating. To try to lose 30 pounds is not motivating. To try to eat less food, it's not motivating. It's demotivating.
Okay, but if you visualize the you that you want to become, and you're visualizing it as you're walking through the mall and the Great American, hot dog stand or the Great American ice cream stand. I mean, they're calling out to you with the aromas that waft your way. So how does that image win out? How does that happen?
Right. Are you talking from experience, or this is hypothetical?
No, it's experience. I'm very good at this.
Well, I hear what you're saying. The temptations are always there because, look, fat and sugar taste good. They're we are drawn to those foods and those smells, and marketing is really good. That's why I tell people your vision better be pretty darn compelling. Otherwise, it will get drowned out by all the other stuff. And from the stress, I had a tough day, I'm tired, I work hard, take care of the kids, I deserve this cookie or I deserve this drink. The vision's got to be so compelling. It's got to be in your face. You've got to come up with it. I believe it's got to be yours. You got to own it. And then you need accountability. You got to tell people what you're going to do. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to start this program, Peter, but I'm not telling anyone. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make because you're setting yourself up to fail. You got to tell the world. You got to shout it out.
Really?
And I know people are uncomfortable at that. It's stepping out of their comfort zone. But to break this thing, we were talking on the air a few minutes before, this is so much more. Health is so much more than losing weight and getting to the gym. It's about becoming who you are, or who you believe you are, who you were at one time, and you just lost track of that. Using great food and great physical activity is a way to make yourself your best. So if you make it really powerful, compelling, exciting, and you surround yourself with like-minded people who are not going to let you down, they're going to keep you accountable, they're not going to take you to the Dunkin' Donuts, they're going to help you find the healthier items at the Whole Foods and the Trader Joe's. Those are the people you want, and you want the vision to go along with it.
Well, we have an acquaintanceship with John Bastow. Do you know John, by chance?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay.
I don't know him personally. I know of him.
And that's our... Well, we talked to him on the air like we're talking to you. But he will... he's got a good attitude about people who have a negative influence on him. In other words, people who will say, come on, why don't you have that piece of cake, He will say, well, I don't want that cake because I don't want to look like you.
Yeah.
It's pretty honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you cheat at all? Do you allow yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Last night, I'm in LA. I'm doing a really great corporate wellness program with an international law firm, and I'm in a great restaurant last night, and I see grilled octopus on the menu, and which is a healthy item actually. Oh, it's delicious. It's marinated. It's tender.
Oh.
It's a good source of iron. It's low calorie. I recommend I try it. And then there was these pork chops that were made in a special way on the menu, and I had some. The portion size was small. I ate healthy all day, and I would consider that a cheat. And I had a couple glasses of wine. So I am not. I don't want. I want to paint a picture for people's in their head. I don't eat rice cakes. I'm not a fanatic, and I don't think you should be severely strict or vegan or anything extreme like that. I definitely think you should make plant-based eating the focus or the foundation of your food. Certainly indulge once in a while, but more often than not, eat the great foods that are going to energize you and help you towards your goals.
And what is really incredible about you is that you allow people to be themselves, and yet you help individuals, and then you also help the individuals in a corporate world, because sometimes the powers that be in the corporate world will institute programs for their employees, and the employees might resent that at first because they feel this isn't something they want to do, but you help them keep their dignity.
Exactly. And some employees feel like it's Big Brother telling them, well, you need to lose weight because it's going to save us dollars in the end. And some corporations might do that. The experience that I've had, though, with companies that are investing in wellness is they care about their employees. They know if their employees eating healthy and exercising regularly, they'll have less stress, less disability. They'll be more focused, more productive, more appreciative of their job. They'll be better in their home life, their personal life, and that'll transfer into a better work life, and they'll find that fit back and forth. You just need to give... What I believe is the secret is find what already motivates you. If you want to lose weight, get healthier. I say this to my audiences all the time. I can't motivate you. People, think that I could motivate them. I can't. But I could help you find what already motivates you, because you're already successful some area of your life. You're doing something well already. Let's transfer that over towards your health. And really, if you think about it, it's easy. Now, I don't want to lose some listeners now when I say it's easy to lose weight or be healthy. But think about it. You have complete control. We're lucky in this country over the food you're going to eat today. No one's going to force anything down your throat, and hopefully you have the resources to purchase fresh, natural foods. And you have a decision today that you're going to move your body in some way, whether you're in a wheelchair or you have no physical limitations. You can move your body today. Those are choices that you can make. The reason why we don't, I believe, is we don't have this vision, and we have this mindset that it's too hard, I'll do it tomorrow, it costs too much, I don't know the right workout. And those are really just excuses. And John would probably say to those people, get off your butt, stop lying to yourself, and get going. because really you're the only thing holding yourself back.
Peter, I have a question for you. In telling people that, and you've done it for a long time, obviously, I'm curious of the feedback you get from them. In other words, what are they telling you they are using for their motivation?
A lot of people, if they have children, they use children. They use guilt sometimes. And I've had mothers say to me, working mothers, 2, 3 children, young at home, husband works, they work full time. They get up early, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to exercise because it's the only time they have. And they say to me, Peter, I don't know that I can do this for myself. I don't know if I deserve this, to look good, to feel good. They actually believe that and say that. But then they ask, can I do this for my kids? And I say, absolutely, because if you do it for your kids, you're doing it for yourself.
In other words, you'll live longer, be healthier, and be around longer for them.
Exactly, you'll be a better role model, right?
And
you want to, people want to help their children.
That is a good motivation.
And it seems that when somebody is doing something for somebody else, they feel they have low self-esteem. But for you to instill in them that if they do it for somebody else, they'll be helping not only the other person, using themselves as a role model, and then you'll give them the self-esteem they need to move forward in life and appreciate their own abilities more.
You're absolutely right about that. We are more likely to do for others than ourselves, and it's been studied. It's psychological fact, if you will. So if that's what it's going to take, then do that. Do it for someone else. Do it for a higher purpose than you. If you're spiritual, if you're religious, do it for your God, whatever. Do it for a compelling reason. See something for yourself. If you can't see a vision for yourself, then see a vision for the people surrounding you. If it is your family, if it is your coworkers or people that you care about, or a cause that you care about, use the resources of great food and fitness to become stronger and better at those things.
Peter, I'm going to tell you an observation. At Christmas time, we went to a couple of malls. I usually stay away from malls.
Yeah,
but we went to a couple of malls.
And
I said to Robin, I said, look at that person and his wife, that man and his wife. They have like the same body. Like they're both a little chubby, or they're both really heavy, or they're both look perfectly fit. But it was almost like people are either eating the same once they get married, or they were just simply attracted to somebody of the same body type. I'm not really sure the answer, but my theory is that she cooks and he eats it, and they both eat the same thing, and that's what causes them to have the same body, pretty much. Now, with that said, I want to go back to something you said about not telling anybody or telling people when you go on this, because I can imagine maybe if the wife wants to lose weight, I don't know if it would work the other way around, but and I hate to be stereotyping men because I am one, but I can imagine a wife who says, you know what, I am tired of this. We're both heavy. Why don't we both go on a diet? And he's not ready to. So she says, well, that's okay. I'm going to go on a diet. Now, she's prepared him the meal she normally does, but she's got a salad. And he starts making fun. Next thing you know, she wishes she never told him.
Yeah, well, that happens. That does happen, and I hear it happening with clients that I talk to. What I say to them is approach it from a very tactful, don't put something in your face, say, well, I'm going to lose weight even if you don't want to, and you'll be sorry kind of thing. You definitely want to, in my opinion, use tact and say, honey, I love you. I want to do great things with you. That's why I'm eating this food. Who can argue with that? Same thing goes for the child. You put a plate of broccoli in front of your child and they throw a tantrum because they want the chicken nuggets or whatever, and you calmly say, I just had a conversation with a mom at the office yesterday. She, her son will not eat vegetables, and I said, well, you've got to fight that fight for your child, and it is a fight. You could save that child's life. Put it in front of them and say, honey, I love you. You're the best. I love when we do these things. You're good at math, or you're a great baseball player, and eating broccoli is going to make you even better, and this is how we eat. And it's just got to be what it is. You're right, too, about in the household, I always see if mom or if your wife or if your partner, the female in the family, is on a health kick, then more likely the husband, kids, or anyone else in that household will be on it, too, because she's the decision maker very often in the house. And hopefully if she does it tactfully, respectfully, and she leads instead of forces people to follow, then she'll probably get more takers.
Yeah.
When you appear on television, on Fox and ABC and all the big shows, all of the shows on television have perfect people. They have perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect teeth, and then they see somebody like you on there that looks absolutely perfect. How do you come across to the regular looking person that this is something for you, because you really are very unselfish and you do share those before photos?
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment, first of all. That's why I put the picture on the website, to show people that I am not perfect. I don't have perfect genes. My mother-in-law says I'm pleasant looking, and I think that's her compliment to me. And
mother-in-laws are like that, you know. Nobody's good
and I love
enough
her,
for their
and
daughter.
I take it completely as a compliment.
You're pleasant looking.
Well, yeah.
You're a pleasant looking young man, Peter.
I'll take it. So what I try to do with people is share right away my history. I told you a little bit about it at the beginning of the show. 22 years ago, I was depressed. I lost my father at 16 in a tragic way. And those events in my early life and that event shaped who I was, and I was a depressed person, frustrated. I lacked vision, I lacked motivation, all the things that I espouse and encourage people to have now. Self-esteem. I lacked all those things. I didn't have guidance. My parents were Greek immigrants and didn't know anything except how to survive in this land and provide food, clothing, shelter for their children. So I try to share that with them, saying you're looking at a more advanced product, if you will. I've been doing this for 22 years, and don't let the facade fool you. I struggle every day. I have challenges. There's times when I'm not motivated, and I don't want to eat healthy or exercise, but more often than not, I do those things. And it's not because I have perfect genetics. It's because I want something better for myself and for my family, and that's a constant reminder to me to keep moving forward and to help and serve others, because doing that will help me stay more accountable, more focused, able to help other people. So what you see, you're right, what you see on TV is not always reality. It's never reality, really. People have the same struggles as you. They might look a little better in their clothes. They might have some fancier clothes, but they've got the same challenges, same emotional challenges that you have. They just come in different packages.
Peter Kay is our guest, and we're talking about our own health, and he's an international health coach, and that makes sense. Peter, one thing I wasn't sure of, is there a book?
Yes, I do have a book. It's called the Live Better Journal. That is on my website.
Okay.
It's in PDF form, and it's really the foundation of the 5 Minutes to Fitness program. And I'm currently working on a new book called PK Ignite that is based on really great research coming out of Harvard with exercise in the brain, and that when you exercise, you not only get more fit, all those benefits, you get smarter because your brain's releasing all these incredible chemicals. And then that coupled with plant-based eating, which I spoke to previously, is eating the foundation of your food from plants, real foods, vegetables, fruit, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. You've heard it before, but science is showing those foods are so powerful in helping us to prevent disease, but also to be our best.
Yeah. Peter, I'm going to kind of challenge you a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, in the last 5 minutes, and if it's too much of a curveball, I don't mean for it to be. But I'm going to kind of give you two things at once, and just tell me the answer to these things. The number one thing is, what one thing can a person who wants to get on the right track, lose weight, get better, healthier, what's one thing a person can do today that'll get you on that foot? And what is one thing we should never, ever do again?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Never, ever allow yourself to self-doubt. If you've got a vision, if you've got a goal, if there's a person you believe you want to be or can be or were, don't doubt that. Recently the movie about Abraham Lincoln came out, and there's a great book by Doris Kearns Goodwin called Team of Rivals. And Lincoln, throughout everything, never doubted his purpose. He had a higher purpose, a higher calling. He never let self-doubt stop him. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened to this country, the history of this country. So don't self-doubt.
Okay.
And then what was your first question? What can they do today?
What's one thing we could, like somebody who was listening to you and you've got them pumped up, you've got them motivated,
Yep.
What's one thing they could do today that would be a great first step in the right direction?
Great question. The first thing I would recommend you do is you get up out of your chair as soon as this program is over. If you're driving, pull over and move your body. Get your heart rate up. That's going to release all of these brain chemicals, feel-good drugs, human growth hormone. It's called Miracle Grow for the brain. Studies show every single person, every time they elevate their heart rate with physical activity, they feel better. It's guaranteed. It happens every time, and it breaks the stress cycle. So the first thing I would say is get out there and move. Even if it's indoors, outdoors is better because you get that vitamin D from the sun. But move. Do something today and feel good about it.
Yeah, remember the time that guy was stalled on the corner, Robin? I got out of my car and I helped him push his car all the way to the gas station on the other corner. I got back in my own car. I was huffing and puffing and said, well, I have worked out. Let's go get an ice cream cone.
That's right.
Yeah, reward yourself for hard work. Right?
And in the beginning of the interview, you also addressed the people who are wheelchair bound, that there is something they can do to keep their adrenaline pumping and the sun on their face.
Absolutely. No matter where you are, I'm a physical therapist. I work with people who have disabilities. I worked with a chiropractor years ago, and he taught me a gift. He said, there's always something someone can do to help themselves. No matter what physical condition they're in, there's always some movement, physical activity. So buy yourself some cheap resistance bands, a couple of dollars, and do some upper body exercise. Get outside, get vitamin D a few minutes a day. It will help you feel better. And do it with other people. Doing it with other people releases even more of these feel-good drugs in your brain, and you create this positive feeling around activity and around movement, and you build this social network around yourself, a real social network with real people that you communicate with, and that's so important.
Peter, thank you for being on with us. Let me just re-mention the website. It's Peter K, the letter K, peterkfitness.com. The book is the Live Better Journal, and you can get it on the website. And the future book, which I hope you come back and promote it on this show, is called PK Ignite. Thank you, Peter, for being on. Is there any other information we should leave with our audience so they can look you up?
No, that's good. The website has all my information, and I welcome emails and feedback. I love talking to people and hearing about their goals and challenges.
Thank you for what you're doing with your life. You're making life better for a lot of people. I'm guessing that the success rate is pretty good. I mean, Red Skelton used to say at the end of his show, I don't know if you remember Red Skelton, he used to say, I do. He used to say, if I made just one person laugh tonight, then I've done my job.
Wonderful.
And I'm sure that every time you go on every radio show, there's got to be at least one person who actually gets started and stays on track. And maybe this time it's me. So
that sounds like almost like a challenge, and that would be very wonderful. The next time we speak, you could tell us about your progress.
All right, Peter. I will.
Yeah, so you sound motivated.
No, I am. I am. Peter, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll take a break and be right back.
Well, the new year is upon us, and that means getting to those forgotten projects that you promised you would. So whether you're tackling a small honey-do list or building the Taj Mahal, Sunbelt Rentals will help you get the job done right with the right tools. From carpet cleaners to excavators, Sunbelt Rentals has what you need. So what are you waiting for? Get it done. Rent it now. From Sunbelt Rentals, located on Highway 27, just a half-mile east of I-75. Or visit sunbeltrentals.com. Get it done. Rent it now. Sunbelt Rentals. When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power & Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call George Mangan Insurance in Ocala today. 352-732-3191.
This is a public notice. Local residents can now save thousands of dollars on their next car, truck, or SUV. It's not a tent sale, because no tent is big enough to hold this many cars. It's OcalaForSale.com. Say goodbye to sticker shock. OcalaForSale.com has thousands of vehicles with no stickers at all. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge, undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Every day we hear another story about innovation or about cutting-edge technology taking place right here in Ocala. The power plant, IHMC, Ocala 489. Did you know that important medical research is also being conducted here that may impact hundreds of thousands of people in the country someday? Maybe you've heard the name Renstar, but like so many others, perhaps you didn't realize that Renstar Medical Research is one of the top facilities of its kind anywhere in the U.S. There are important research studies being conducted by a highly qualified team of medical experts at Renstar in impacting decisions of major pharmaceutical companies and bringing new drugs to market. And you can be a part of these studies, as so many local people have done and are currently doing. RenStar has conducted more than 500 studies since its inception and would like to extend the opportunity to you to be a part of these cutting-edge programs. Call 877-629-5800 or 352-629-5800 if you'd like to know more. RenStar Medical Research, locally owned and operated in beautiful downtown Ocala. RenStar, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today.
They've served our country. They've kept us free. And they need your help.
We're sitting in Veterans Park. You can't sit here not realizing that you're surrounded by heroes. There are a lot of heroes in our community. A lot of heroes, unfortunately, are not in good financial shape. They're hurting both physically and financially. We step in and help directly. Our role is to reach out to them. We're there to help the veteran. We do counseling. We do outreach. Sometimes it's just coming into the office and sitting down and saying, hey, I've got a problem, and you're talking to another veteran who understands that problem.
Everybody who works for the Vets Helping Vets are awesome, and they are so kind to everybody. They're like my second family. They really are.
They have been there during the holidays. I have gotten unexpected visits, assistance.
Vets Helping Vets of Marion County needs your help. Call today, 352-433-2320, and pledge your support to Vets Helping Vets of Marion County.
It really has been a blessing.
Why is everyone so obsessed with virtual reality and high definition? My neighbor came over yesterday to show me the photographs he took of the pansies and dianthus that I got from Kenny's Place Nursery. He had this electronic pad, and with the flip of his finger, he showed me these beautiful shots he took in my garden. And then he said, you can almost smell them. That's when I used my finger and motioned him to the garden, and then pointing with my cursor, also known as my finger, I pointed toward the real flowers from Kenny's Place Nursery, and I said, I can smell them. Instead of virtual reality, I enjoy real reality. But it is more than the beauty of the pansies and dianthus, and more than their fragrance. It's the way they move in the breeze. It's the butterflies and bees that are attracted to them. You know, the plants I get from Kenny's Place Nursery from my garden in the real world provide me with an outdoor sanctuary to escape from that virtual world. Kenny's Place Nursery is located at 7677 Southeast 41st Court in Ocala. Give them a call at 867-1213. Kenny's Place Nursery, where the plants, the people, and the mission are all beautiful.
Tune in weekly to the Financial Safari and get that common sense approach to financial and retirement planning.
I mean, I like to have guarantees instead of hoping and praying when we're talking about retirement. The person who has you in the risk account doesn't want you to know about it. If you try to do everything yourself, you don't have a team behind you giving you the advice, but more importantly, telling you what's wrong. Just stop doing bad things in your portfolio could take the worry out of living in retirement.
The Financial Safari with Coach Pete D'Arruda and local trusted advisor Jean Ann Durrell. Saturday mornings at 9 on WOCA The Source.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You remember the movie, The Big Fat Greek Wedding, or My Big Fat Greek Wedding, whatever
Oh,
it's called?
yeah.
Do you remember the movie?
I like that movie.
Well, you know what that reminded me of, and I'm going to kind of draw from my past. When I was 17 years old, my family moved from New York to Florida, and I felt a little bit, disconnected, and I wanted to get back to New York so bad, but I really didn't have any family up there. So I had some really close friends, and I actually moved in with my friend's family, and I actually became sort of kind of part of that family a little bit, and I got to kind of go to their parties and their get-togethers, and you got to see something about the family. It's like, wow, this is like a different world than the family I was from, and my family has its own world, and in The Big Fat Greek Wedding, you get the feeling from that movie that the people who enter into that world of that particular family also are, wow, you've got a similarity, kind of a thread that runs through it, almost like food and, well, maybe not music so much. I think music varies from person to person, but a lot of times if you know several people from the same family, we all like spaghetti or something of that nature. Dr. Gary L. Malone and his sister Susan Mary Malone are both on the phone. The book they're going to talk about is titled "What's Wrong with My Family and How to to live your best life anyway. Dr. Gary Malone is an associate clinical professor of psychiatry at the University of Texas Southwestern. He's a teaching analyst at the Dallas Psychoanalytic Institute and a distinguished fellow in the American Psychiatric Association, and an author as well, of course. And Susan Mary Malone is Dr. Malone's sister. She's an award-winning writer and editor, a freelance book editor, and I believe they co-wrote this one, What's Wrong with My Family? Dr. Gary Malone and Susan Mary Malone, good morning to both of you.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for... are you both in the same place? Where are you?
We live about an hour and a half apart. We're both in Texas.
In North Texas, we all claim to be in the same place, but it's pretty spread out.
And you know, being from Texas is kind of interesting because a lot of Texans will say, well, you got to be Texan to know a Texan. It's almost like saying you got to be a Smith to know a Smith.
Well, that's somewhat correct. You know, Texas is its own culture, although we're a big melting pot now. Things have changed so dramatically since we grew up here.
Yeah. When I referenced the Big Fat Greek Wedding, it conjures up a fun atmosphere, though. Not necessarily one... Well, I guess they had their own perks and, you might say, issues. But the book title seems to be focusing at some of the issues are they issues we might be embarrassed by in our own families?
Well, I think what it comes down to is that everybody's got a family. Like the Big Fat Greek Wedding is a good example. That's a healthy, functioning family, but if you go to each individual who's there, they may be experiencing it slightly differently. There's going to be a lot of love, a lot of connectedness. But some people who have some self-confidence issues may have trouble leaving. Some people may experience it as controlling. Some people say they want to go their own way and feel like they have trouble doing that. And so it's always a mix. Everyone comes out of their family with gifts, which you have to stop and look at, and some damage. And that's the whole point of this book, is how to assess that, and then as an adult, create the life that you feel like is best for you. Look at your values, see where your values come from, and create a life that reflects that. Not necessarily another version of the family you grew up with, which you will do unless you stop and look at it. That's the whole point.
So your own, the family that you and your wife have is somewhat different than the one you not broke away from, but the one you were brought up in.
Well, it can be. If you're not careful, you recreate the same one. And that's a high percentage of likelihood.
Oh, okay.
And if you were not happy with the family you grew up with, which many people say, I'm not going to be like that, but unless they actually do some work, they'll likely create some version of that.
Susan, you and Gary, are you both married?
Gary is married and has children. I am single.
Okay. So, but you grew up together, obviously.
Yes.
We did, and we I tell you, it's funny. We have been friends since, as well as siblings since we were very small, and have run several businesses together when we were kids. So we're used to collaborating.
So, but were the two of you looking back on your family and saying, well, this was what was wrong with our family, and it's not unusual. Everybody's got something wrong, or, I mean, how do
I'll tell you, Larry, what has happened to us in the last 4 years, not to belabor everything, is we lost both of our parents. And when you go through that, you sort of look back, and you really do go back through your own family and all your experiences, the good and the bad. And that was part of the impetus for this book. But Gary and I have written together before, and we really like to. And we, again, we collaborate really well together. And through our sort of hashing out our own growing up, and did you see it this way, and I saw it this way. We started talking about, writing another book, and this one was just sort of a natural extension.
Well, and Larry, too, I think our family was not uncommon. My dad was a psychiatrist. My mom was a nurse. They were very busy. We bonded together. There were four of us. I made friends with my two older brothers and my younger sister, and so. Looking back, there are things that I didn't like, things that affected me badly growing up. I got some really good things, and like I say, Susan and I have maintained a closeness throughout our lives. We were the two youngest.
Right. Now, what if I'm delving a little bit into your personal life, but you said there were some bad things. What were the bad things that affected you?
Like many things, my dad was a professional person, gone a lot of the time. When he was home, he was kind of into himself and demanded my mother's attention. We had a brother who was killed when we were teenagers. He died in a car accident. I think that when you say bad things, there are times where my parents were less than supportive, but there's nothing more overt stuff we thought at the time was pretty out there, but really wasn't. And then, like I say too, the surviving kids in our family all are very successful, very happy, very pleased with their lives. So we'd be considered successful outcomes. We had some unusual gifts growing up too, some stuff that most people didn't have, and that's pretty common. You get a spread across the board. And Susan is extremely bright, and I spent a lot of time looking at this, and we try to figure out, what do we take out of this family? What do we take out that we want to value? What do we take out that we want to maybe change? Maybe change about ourselves or about the families we're creating now.
And how do you keep the families close? Because families grow. There are two people, and then there's children, there's grandchildren, there's great-grandchildren, and then sometimes people become distant.
I think
Robin, we work at that. We all live in different areas, and my two brothers and I are very close, and we work at maintaining that closeness, and we work at, even to the point of my other brother's son just had a baby, and Albuquerque and I flew out to meet the baby.
Aww.
It's one of those things where my brothers are really important to me. And I know that I'm important to them, and so we put the time and effort in for that.
And the simple answer is, you really have to do that, and also you have to realize when you think about your family, you have lots of issues there. You have pain, you have resentment. You want to, have to settle some scores with someone. You have to put all that aside, let the love predominate, and make sure when you talk to people, hey, we're going to get together for Thanksgiving. The love predominates. Go, my God, it's my house this time. You better be there. Do that. And it's by attraction. It's by attraction, not by guilt jerking or not by talking somebody into something. And that's the hardest thing for people to get across, because so often, in my office, go, boy, I got this holiday coming up, and my gosh, when I see so and so, I'm going to let them have it. Well, that's not going to promote the family love.
No, that's not going to do anything for anybody. The book is called What's Wrong with My Family and How to Live Your Best Life Anyway, and our guests are the authors of that book, brother and sister Susan Mary Malone and Dr. Gary L. Malone, both in Texas and about an hour and a half from one another. The other day I used this one reference to a Rocky movie. I'm going to do it again. I didn't think I was going to use this twice. In the last Rocky movie, the one where Adrian is dead, and
yeah, that was sad.
But Rocky is talking to his son. And there's a street scene where his son is yelling at him. He says, "You embarrassing me!" And then Rocky delivers this speech in this nice string score going underneath him, and it builds it up. But anyway, Rocky yells back at him, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to love you no matter what. But the one thing you need to know is that if you blame anybody, you're never going to go anywhere. You gotta remember, you have control of everything, or something. I'm not doing it as well as he did it."
That is great. That is great. That is pretty much the gist of our book. Mm-hmm. That no matter if you grew up in Ozzie and Harriet's family, or if you grew up in Attila the Hun's, what you do with that as a grown-up is up to you. And yeah, there are some terrible things that happen in families. And there are some just normally, bad things that happen in families, and there's a lot of good, and you have to sort through yourself. And what we tried to point out is, if this happened to you, if this was your issue, say, your parents fought all the time,
right.
This is what it did to you, this is what you took away from that, and this is what you can do so that you don't recreate that in your own adult life. And that's, I love that quote, Larry. I think that's just, I wish I would have found that before. I would have used it somewhere in the book.
It's funny, because I think that, to me, that was the best Rocky movie. I like that one, because it was a guy trying to make some sense out of what happened with him. But, the point is, too, that when you do introspection and even do therapy, it's not about blaming. It's not about a vendetta to go back to people that wronged you and settle a score. If you are projecting blame on other people, it's a low level of functioning, and you will not grow.
Well, and part of your biography, Doctor, mentioned that you work with adults who had some kind of an adult chemical dependency, and I'm guessing that plays a role in how the rest of the family has experienced their family life.
Oh yes, I do many things. I'm actually have a separate board certification in addiction psychiatry. I run an addiction unit here at Millwood in Arlington, and it's a genetic illness, runs in families, actually runs in our family, and can tear the family apart easily. And it's all about how do you deal with a person who has an illness who's not dealing with it? How do you deal with yourself? How do you keep a family bond in spite of this? All very serious issues. But, the advantage is people with bright minds who can talk to each other and introspect can kind of live through different things. We had in our extended family, we had people die of alcoholism. We had people really destruct their lives, but have kept our family bond and have a way of dealing with what happened. And that's it. You just have to be able to think about it yourself and talk to people about it.
How did you both manage to write this book and it not come across as a textbook, but more of a story?
That would be me.
Okay. we suspected that, actually.
Yeah. Well, Gary actually is a regular guy, when he's not being his professional self. But, what he would do is, and this is our second book together, so we were, the first book was one called 5 Keys for Understanding Men. Oh. And, it's actually still available on.
I'll have to read that one.
That's right.
I'll have to read that one.
But what we would do is, Gary, in this book, Gary dictated a lot of it, but we would talk about it. And he of course, would dictate in his sort of jargon terms, and then I would translate it. But Gary actually writes very well himself, and the vignettes that are in the book, are pretty much untouched. He writes very well, but he will get into really technical kind of things. And my job a lot of times was kind of as translator. If what he means to say is this.
Oh, gosh.
In real English, this is what this means.
And you'll appreciate this process. I dictated this book over a 2-week period 2 years ago. It took 2 years for Susan to take that and put it into a readable form.
Oh, wow.
And Susan, you are an award-winning editor by trade. Were you able to be objective enough and edit your own book, or did somebody else have to do that?
We have someone else who goes over it, who edits for us as well, and points out, I still don't understand what this means.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of thing. Yeah. So no, it's really tough to edit your own work. Mm-hmm. And I write fiction as well, and this is my 5th book to be published. And I always have another editor go over it. You just have to.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Do you know something may be just so clear in your own mind, and it doesn't translate to the page.
I want to point something out and ask you some feedback on this. A lot of times, teachers will have several members of a family throughout the course of a few years, and if the oldest child who passes through that teacher's classroom is kind of a troublemaker, then the second child, who is not a troublemaker at all, is going to be treated differently because he or she is the brother or sister of that first child.
You're absolutely right. And, that happens all the time.
And if that teacher didn't know that this was a sibling, would have treated that child totally differently as a fresh new face. But because there was a sibling, there's this... Maybe it's false intuition. I just want your feedback. I would like to. What are your thoughts on this?
Let me give you a real personal thing on that. My 2 older brothers were both child geniuses, and my oldest brother is a National Merit Scholar, state diving champion, and my brother right in front of me was off the charts smart. And I would come along and go, "Oh, you're their brother."
Oh, wow.
And, that's a good, but in your case...
I'm pretty smart. I'm not that smart, and I had behavioral problems and all kinds of stuff, and so I was constantly disappointing teachers.
Oh.
And I will say, too, I had that, I followed the 3 boys, although in my case, I think it actually helped me because the bar was set so high, and it made me strive and be a better student. So I think it can work in any of those ways. It can work negatively against you, it can work positively against you.
But I'm guessing the same thing happens with police. So let's say there's a policeman, he's always pulling over the kid, the young driver who's running lights.
Right.
And now here comes the good kid, and he gets pulled over because he's got he didn't put his blinker on or something. It's, oh, you're Johnny's brother.
Exactly.
Well, that explains everything.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly true. But when I talk to someone, and whether it's a friend or I've seen someone in treatment and therapy, it's you are part of this family, but you are you, and you can't. You are both. At the end of the day, you are you, by the way, and people are going to react to you from the fact that you're from, say, Texas or the South, or part of this family, or part of this extended family.
That's true too, yeah.
And that's all true. And I can talk about being from Texas and all our legacies from here. I'm also me with my own thoughts and feelings, but you're that complete package, and don't try to get away from it. And you accept what you want, and you change what you can change that you don't think is right for you.
And how about the parents then that are constantly, every day their child's in something? One day is dance, one day is sports, one day is art, one day is music, and the child gets so overwhelmed that their parents don't allow them to let their parents know what their field of passion is.
See, Rob, and I have a strong feeling on this, and that I see people all the time, and they call them hothouse kids. And that they're constantly, if you look at their schedule, they're crazy. They're worse than my schedule. And a lot of growth has to do with alone time and time with your peers, unstructured time. Like Susan and I grew up, and we had a structured household, but God, Susan, how many hours do we have just to create something? And, create a game, create something with ourselves. And when I advise people, you talk about that. The hothouse kids aren't necessarily better outcomes than the kids that got some space. And
wow.
That's actually, I live in Colleyville next to South Lake. You may have heard of that. I lived in Highland Park in Dallas for years. Those kids are no better outcomes than the smart kids from the other parts of town. Because very often if you have your own space to grow, you kind of grow into who you're supposed to be and who you want to be instead of being molded or reacting to the mold.
The book is called What's Wrong with My Family and How to Live Your Best Life Anyway. Dr. Gary L. Malone and Susan Mary Malone wrote the book. They are brother and sister, both in Texas. The one thing I wondered about is, because a family truly has, I guess, infinite numbers of dynamics. If you get married, suddenly there are two family backgrounds that got melded together, and then when you have children, those children all add something that's kind of mysterious because it comes from nowhere. How many people have had let's say a child who can play the cello, and both parents were more into sports, and they say, well, where did that come from?
Right.
Or that kind of, and next thing you know, or the little girl who becomes, the rocket scientist, and everybody thought, wow, who did that? So I mean, there's so many dynamics that play a role. So your family, the one that you raise, is potentially infinitely different than the one you came from.
Absolutely. And it's sort of a logarithmic progression. There are so many thousands of gene combinations. And it's also said that every child grows up in a different family than the child before him did, because the dynamics within that family change as each child comes along.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I mean, and then each child processes what goes on in the family in a little bit of a different manner. So you bet. And, you talk about it, like you're saying, everything just gets so complicated. And then you have in-laws, and then you have their parents, and it becomes somewhat of a challenge to keep a family together.
Well, in a healthy
but
family,
it goes back to the desire to do so.
A healthy family will let each individual grow into their best selves, and that's a measure of health. And I talk to my kids about this too, because our family, we're such a mix, and we all go every different direction. But and I remember traveling through Europe, and you go through Scandinavia, and you see these couples, and the mom and dad look the same, the pointed features and stuff, and they have 4 kids, all look the same, they're just different sizes, and they go to a restaurant, they'll order the same thing, and they don't talk because they all know what each other are thinking. I look at my kids and go, that's not our family.
Well, some families, I always look at it this way, some families are like sitcoms, and some are like, some are like soap operas.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and that's just it. And I prefer to be with the sitcom families.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I mean, it really is true.
And how do you help the family? Because now with technology, I mean, you know, everybody's got handheld video games. They got everything on their smartphones. They have DVDs in the back of their cars. How do you keep the families to communicate with each other and not just get lost in their own little world when they're traveling from here to Grandma's house?
Well, you know, I saw a good study that showed that, and it was hard to do, I didn't always do this, that families that still had a family dinner, that teenagers had a dramatically better outcome. And now, who's in charge of that? Mom and Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question. Well, the time together, it's got to...
Yes, quality time together.
It's got to be some kind of a great contribution to the children's lives.
Yes.
As much as you can be with them. And, if there's any message that I could ever deliver to my children, it would be that. Spend time with your children. The book, again, is called What's Wrong with My Family and How to Live Your Best Life Anyway. So did you approach the book with a sense of humor? And I'm only asking because we haven't seen the book. Is it a humorous book? Is it a sitcom, or is it a soap opera?
It's
all of the above.
It's all of the above. Okay.
It's all of the above. We talk about the foibles, and there are poignant references, and there are funny references, and Gary and I both read pretty eclectically, and we draw examples from a lot of different areas. And what we wanted to do was write a book that was accessible, that wasn't, written in jargon, that was accessible for, most people, and that gave things you can do and what happened to you, and used examples from Gary's patients, from movies, from books, from, people, just people in general. And a lot of those are funny, and a lot of those are sad, and a lot of those are, may even kind of instigate anger in folks as it plugs into your own issues. So we took a sort of a all-encompassing view on the book.
Well, and I think that our choice of entertainment sometimes is interesting to us because we see ourselves or our families on that screen or on that stage or in that song or whatever it might be.
Well,
we all do.
This is a book of hope. And, Susan and I both have value humor, and, people around my house get Gary fatigue because I make jokes all the time, but this is a book of hope, that, what you do is you assess, you look, you measure the damage, you feel it, you mourn the losses, but it's how to be, how to live your best life anyway. It's not just a follow-up tagline. It's actually what the book's about. It's about, this is your one life, you want it to be rich, full, and enjoyable. How to neutralize the stuff holding you back. And it's a hopeful, upbeat book. And
you're teaching yourself to give to others in the process.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
People will come to your house by attraction, not because you told them to, and not because you guilt jerked them. They'll come because there's love at your house. That's what they come for.
Dr. Gary L. Malone and Susan Mary Malone. What a great conversation. I think we can relate to what you're saying, and looking forward to seeing the book. Robin says it's on the way.
Yes.
Once it gets here, I will give it away on the air, as I do all of the books, and the rest of us have to go buy it. Is there a website you can leave us with?
Susan, I think we can just get this on Amazon, can't you? So.
It's www.what'swrongwithmyfamily.com.
Okay, that's what I thought. What'swrongwithmyfamily.com. Amazon, I'm guessing the books. Is it available as an ebook?
It is available as a print book and an ebook in many different places, but Amazon for sure, yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, Susan and Gary, thank you both so much for being on the air with us today.
Thank you, Larry and Robin. We really enjoyed it.
Fun interview, yeah.
It's delightful. Thank you.
We did too. We'll take a little break and be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
Okay, guys, listen up. It's that time of year again. Little chocolate hearts, roses, earrings, Valentine's Day's coming.